Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder with yet another Reddit story for you. This one titled, Am I the Astronaut for Cutting the Amount I Contribute to Our Budget After My Wife Refused to Stick to Our Agreement Regarding Our Kids? My wife and I agreed before we got married on a lot of the big things, where we would live, how we would deal with our families, how we would raise our kids, stuff like that. Deal breakers. One of our decisions was that as long as our kids were full-time students, then they would not have to contribute monetarily to the household budget. Obviously, they would still have chores and such. If they weren't full-time students, then they would get a 6-month grace period after which they had to pay rent and buy their own food. Rent would be equal to a quarter of full-time minimum wage work. We agreed on this in 1998. Hold up. Why is this marriage a contractual agreement in which all future is predicted and planned for using business contract models? So this is for like college age and above. It sounds like this is what the scenario is planning for. Our eldest did not want to go to university and used the 6 months after graduation to work, save money, and plan a trip around the world. When he got back, he started an apprenticeship and is now a welder. Our middle kid went to university and is now a nurse. Our youngest did 1 semester of college and decided it wasn't for him. He also decided that he didn't want to work. Okay, well, that's problematic. After 6 months, I told him that he was now responsible for his rent and food budget. He went crying to his mom, saying that he couldn't afford that. She said he didn't have to pay. She didn't discuss it with me first. Yeah, I mean, you guys agreed upon something and she knew it existed and she disagreed with it and didn't tell you. I get it. It was a unilateral decision on her part. She pays all of our bills. I give her a set amount every month to pay for everything. The money she earns, she either spends however she wants or it goes into our vacation fund. Not a stay-at-home parent. These are also 18 plus children. So my hypothetical was way off. So I decided to cut my contribution to our budget by the cost of rent and 1/3 of our grocery bill. I'm red flagging that too. She asked me why I did that, and I said that we had an agreement and that she chose to ignore it, so I did the same. She's been paying the difference out of the money that would normally go into our vacation account, and she cut back on her personal spending, but she is pissed that I am doing this. She says that I'm an asshole for being financially manipulative. How far is financial manipulation from financial abuse? I'm just curious. A toe? I think she needs to either accept it or get her poor baby to grow up. She tried getting our older kids on her side, but they agreed with me. Am I the astronaut? Yeah. Jay Fizzle, I agree with that. Hold the kids accountable, not impact your wife. However, the wife was the dissenter here. The wife was the one who said he didn't have to pay it. You guys were 100% right. Let's get that out of the way right now. This isn't everyone sucks here. It's an everyone sucks here. Okay, because I understand OP's point now, and that she was in breach of contract, which isn't a legally binding thing. It's just something that they agreed upon, right? So let's get that out of the way. But according to OP, and OP feels like she is in breach of contract, so he doesn't have to honor this contract now either. But he is actively punishing her. Now, they're parenting against each other. That's the first you both suck. Because they're just heading in complete opposite directions here. I think the wife did go rogue. I think their agreements that they came up with before they ever had kids and are still sticking to is bullshit. Like that's an unrealistic expectation to create an agreement and a structure based on percentages of minimum. Like that's making it really complicated. But I understand the usefulness for it because it helped your 2 other children like kind of blitz into the real world. Here's the problem. Not everyone can blitz into the real world like that. And your youngest may be one of those kids. Or mom could have just coddled him and that's why he's refusing to launch, right? There are a lot of possible things going on here, but here's what I know. I know that the approach in the beginning that you used with a contract model here sucks. And it's part of the reason that this bullshit has been caused today. Now, she knew the rules or knew the agreement and went against it anyway behind your back, and that made everything worse. You both suck. He does need to grow up. He does need to figure something out, and she's enabling. Can you imagine if we had tried to do this before getting married, Candy Thunder? Sat down and be like, okay, if this happens, here's how we're going to approach it. We're going to have a 60-day grace period. We're going to take 1/3 of working full-time at minimum wage, and our kids are going to... Can you imagine if we took that approach? You would not have married me. You'd have been like, oh, I'm going to tell you right now, this ain't going to work. ESH and everybody needs to grow up. Agreed. Candy Thunder says in here, mom needs to explain why it was okay for the first 2 kids and not the youngest. Agreed. I think dad handled it poorly, but she went against the agreed upon approach for their kids. And the fact that she went with that approach for the first 2 kids is the biggest problem here. If whenever it happened with the first kid, she was like, come on, this is bullshit. We agreed upon this before we even got married. Things change. It would be a very different story, but it is not. She followed this plan for the first 2 kids and decided with the baby, she didn't have to. And he didn't have to. So, yeah, now it's just chaos. The second child is still at home paying rent. Yeah. So there's, of course, the siblings are like, no, we're with dad on this one because they had to follow it. And if mom came to them and was like, your little brother shouldn't have to follow this archaic rule, they were like, then why the did we? Of course we're with dad on this. I'm not going to say he gets to not have to follow the system that we had to follow. Bullshit. No, the system's bullshit. But it's what worked for them. She changed the rules for the baby of the family, Meghan Carroll. Yeah, it's OP's overall approach for me that I think trying to treat a marriage and a family like a business is not healthy. And this is, I think, one of the great examples of why.